Welcome guys, it's Kobe here, and this is the part 2 of the rolling cube with no animation. So in the first part of this video, I showed the technique which I used to do this particular rolling cube with no animation from scratch, how we created the cube and added the dynamic tab and everything to actually make it move on its own and roll where it actually hits the bricks from scratch in the first part. So if you've not watched the first part, you can actually go ahead and watch it. So in this part, I'm actually going to show how you can actually combine animation plus dynamics to actually get the same rolling cube. But in this case, like, you actually have control of the pace, when it should move and how it should move. And you can actually control it if you are moving it according to some sound or something. You have a bit of control with that. And at the same time, I also break down this particular scene and the lighting, how I actually lit this one. If you're interested, can watch to the end and you see how. I also show how I actually animate a normal cube without dynamics, but that one with full keyframes by using multiple pivots, custom pivots. So that's basically creating noise. So this, like, a lot of things going to happen in this one, and I actually do a lot of fun stuff as well also, in this video if you have enough time. So let's go ahead and start in Cinema 4D. So now we are in Cinema 4D and I'm going to create my cube. So I'll go to the object menu and I'll click and hold and I'll choose cube, right? I'll go ahead and create my floor. Now I'll move the cube up on the Y by 100 centimeters so that it will be on the floor, right? So now we go ahead and start animating our cube by rolling it. The pivot is in the middle, but we don't mind because we know we are going to use dynamic to force it to recognize where the pivot is. So I'll start animating. I'll actually increase my frame rate, like as in the frames here. So I'll actually put it to like 200 frames, right? And now let me start animating. So to animate, I'll select the cube. I'll come to its coordinate and I want to rotate its banking, right? The B, the down last part of the rotation. So I'll set my keyframe, click here to set a keyframe at 0, and I want to rotate it 90 degrees going on the banking. So I'll move it to, like, let's say frame 20. Now animate 90 degrees. Right, I'll set a keyframe and let's see what we have. Yeah, so we have our keyframe set, right? So we can actually, so with this one, we have how we want our animation to move. So let's move 90 and we want it to wait for, like, let's say another 20 seconds, right? Then we set a keyframe again. Now we want to move it, rotate another 90. So I'll add 180, right? So 90, 90. So we'll move, wait for another 20 frames, right? Then come to 100 plus another 90, so 270. It's 2, 3. Then wait another 20. Set a keyframe. Go to frame 140. Then we hit 360. Right, so it's done a full rotation. So now 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically this is our animation, but you can see it's going through the floor, right? And the pivot is supposed to be down here, not in the middle. So what we do is we'll go ahead and start using our dynamics. So to add dynamics, I'll right click, come to simulation tags, and I'll choose rigid body for the cube. If I hit play, you can see it's falling, right? And I'll right click on the floor simulation. Now choose collider body. If I hit play, you can see it's starting, nothing happening because the floor is a collider body. But unfortunately, if I hit play again, you can see our animation is not working, right? The keyframes, everything, but it's not working. So the first thing we have to do is to force our animation to work. and the animation is on our rotation, right? So you select the cube dynamics tab, and you come to force. You have all these tabs here. You come to force, and you can see follow rotation. So if we say it should follow the rotation, increase it to, let's say, in fact, 50 is a lot. It will force it to follow our animation. So if I hit play, let's see what happens. You can see it's forcing to follow our animation. So first of all, we like what we have, right? The next thing is the floor looks slippery. You can see it's slipping. So what we do is select both the dynamics tag, rigid body tag, and the floor collider tag. And control to select the two, and I'll come to collision, and I'll increase the friction to, like, let's say 500, and I'll take off the bounce for now, and now let's hit play, and you can see now it's not slipping. But like, another issue is it moves up, right? But it's following the rotation. Now this where the if you watch the first video, what we do is, for it not to move up, we will use dynamics to force it to stay where it is. So now what you use gravity is hit Control D to bring the project settings, which is you can find in here, project settings. You have Control D as the shortcut. Now you come to dynamics in general, and you increase the gravity. It's 10,000 now, and you increase it to 10,000, and now hit play. You can see now our cube is actually following, it's rolling but following the animation the way we want it. So basically, this is how you combine animation plus dynamics to get the cube to roll the way you want. But like I did in earlier, like sometimes if you have other things in the sim, you might want to create your own gravity, which I did in the first video, right? So that the gravity doesn't affect other object that you don't want it to affect. So basically, this is one way that you can actually go around with this thing, right? You can now later come into play for it not to bounce off a little bit too much. So maybe actually let me reduce the gravity a bit. So I'll Control D, and maybe I'll do it like, let's say 6,000. Hit play. Still kind of like moving about, but I mean, you have to play around with it a little bit to get it to move the way you want it, right? Maybe the follow rotation, I'll select the dynamics, and I'll come to the forces, force. Now increase the follow rotation to like 80, and let's see. Yeah, see, it forces it to follow the animation keenly. But you can play around with it to get the feel you want, but it's making it follow the animation. I want a little bit of dynamics in it, so maybe I'll reduce it. I mean, you play with it back and forth to see how you want it, and I like this one rather. Yeah, I like this. So basically, this is how you combine the dynamics with animation to get the cube to roll at your own pace. So now you can actually come in, select the cube, select everything, and now I can actually reduce the keyframe. In fact, let me reduce it from to like 80. Select the whole keyframe. To do that, you just click here and drag to select everything. It highlights yellow, and now you can see we have the highlights one separate from the whole thing. So you click and hold that one and drag it to expand or make it smaller. So that's how I did it, right? So hit play, and I can see it's going faster. If you don't like it, now you can actually come in here, and depending on the speed of your animation, you might have to adjust the dynamics, like the influence of the gravity and the follow position and stuff, to get the feel you want, right? So basically, this is how to combine animation and dynamics. So in the next one, let me actually show how, if I'm animating the cube or on its own without dynamics, how I'll do it. So I'll go ahead and create a new 4D. We'll go ahead and create a new cube, right? Then this one is fully just animation, no dynamics, right? And there are several ways that you can do it. You can actually make this cube editable and use the axis to move back and forth and make the axis, which I don't think is ideal. Or you can use one null object, which is a custom. So I'll go ahead and create a null object, and you know this is our pivot. This is where the cube will rotate in first, right? So now we move our null to that corner, but for accuracy's sake, I'll make it minus 100, because you know the size of the cube, it's like 200 centimeters. So minus 100 down and 100 here. So now the cube is right, the null is right at the tip of where we want it, and that's going to be our custom null. So if you put the cube in here and we rotate the null, you can see it's rotating the way we want it. Now that you've rotated it, now the pivot has now shifted to this point, right? So if you go ahead to rotate it, you can see now it's not going the way we want it. So it means you have to create another pivot for this point. So we will go ahead and do that. So let me take out the cube, right? So I actually duplicate this one, or to avoid, I'll actually create a new null, right? And this one, we want it to go up, so 100 centimeters on the upwards and 100 centimeters on the X. And that's going to be our second pivot, right? Then we'll make that one a child of the first pivot, right? Then now we make our cube a child. So you see, this is our first pivot. If we rotate it, it gives us to this point, that's 90. Then now we select this one, and now if you rotate this one, that one follows like that. So we are going to duplicate it back like the same thing again. So I'll take off the cube, maybe I'll leave this one in, then I'll create another null. That one will be for this pivot, because now after this one shift, now the pivot shift to this side. So now this null will move minus 100 and 100 centimeters on Y for the position, and that one to be a child of the second pivot. Then we create a third one, a fourth one, then that one will move minus 100 on X and minus 100 on Y. So that one will be at the tip here, right? And now that one will be a child of the. So now we have all these nulls arranged for our pivots, right? So now we animate this one, and when it gets here, we animate this, and when it gets there, that's how we are going to do it. So undo. So because we are going to make it roll just 4 times, that's why we created only 4 nulls for the 4 pivots. If we wanted it to roll more, like depending on the number of rolls we want, then it means you create all those number of nulls and you place it going round. One will be here, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, it will be going that way. So depending on the number of rows that you want, it will determine number of pivots that you create, right? Now to animate the pivots, I'm going to use this technique, which I mean, it's very interesting because we are going to rotate each pivot just 90. So it's not necessary for you to do it one by one. So I'll first of all take off the cube, which doesn't matter though, but like I'll just take it off so that I'll take off the cube. Then I'll select all the nulls, right? If I wanted more, I could have gone ahead to duplicate this. So I can duplicate this, the whole thing, and make it a child of the last one, right? So now you have 8 nulls, right? So it means you have 1 2 3 4, all are the same position. Then I'll select all of it. So now it's going to be 8 rows, right? Then we are going to rotate the banking. What it's doing is like they are all rotating, so a child will rotate, the parent will rotate every child under it. So I'll set a keyframe here, and at frame, let's say we want it to roll like within 15 frames, so I'll increase it to 90, right? And now you can see what has actually happened. You see what has happened. For us to see it clearly, I can actually use the tracer object. So come to MoGraph, tracer, right? Then I'll come to the tracer in, and I'll say trace, I think, connect all objects. Yeah, I think so. And if I hit play, I think, oh, I should actually drag in nulls. So hold on, I'll lock this tab so that it doesn't disappear. Then I'll select all the nulls. Then I'll drag and drop it in the tracer, right? So now you see the tracer is showing us what actually is happening. So I'll zoom out for us to see. So with all the nulls selected, this is what is happening. Because you animated it one, this is how it's happening. Do you see what's basically? So it's like unfolding, but then you have to offset it because you don't want it to roll like that. So if you should make the cube, go back and make the cube a child of this, and you can see the way it's going, and that's not what we want. See what? That's not what we want. So we have to offset the animation basically. So now I'll take off. So this one will be the first one, right? So I'll take the rest, then I'll offset it. Let's say select all of this, and I'll move those ones like, let's say 20, right? So you move first one, then now the second one will move. So I'll deselect this, then I'll move this one to, let's say 30. Actually, let me see where this one. So I'll move this one to 40. All right, then I'll deselect this, then I'll move all of them to, I think all of them, I'll move them all to 60. I'll deselect this one, then I'll move them all to 80. Actually increase my frames here, so I'll make it 150. So I'll let me see. So with this here, okay, so I'll select this, then I'll move them all to 100. So you use this process to offset all of them all to 120. Now deselect this. I think I should increase my frame, so I'll actually do it 200. So with this, I'll deselect this one, and I'll move this down to, I think, 140. And now if I hit play, let's see what happens. I think, okay, yeah. So if I hit play, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you see, and the tracer object is actually showing you like the trail. So basically, that's how ideally I'll animate my rolling cube depending on what I'm doing at any time, right? So this is a fun and interesting way of animating without null object. You can actually keep one null object but move it. If you are using one null object to do that, you have to move the cube anytime you shift the pivot, because the pivot keeps shifting, so the cube too also has to shift, and it's not intuitive that way for me. So I usually use, if I want to do something like this, I'll prefer to use the null object to do the rotation. So basically this is how so you do your rolling cube with animation using the nulls as your pivots, and this one too gives you control, so you can actually come in this particular, let's say this second one, right? Let's say this one, and you probably can add a little bit of bounce to it. Let me see, where is it? Is that what I've selected? Yeah. But I'm not seeing the animation. Okay, so second. Oh, so you see, I locked the tab for the trace object, so I'm not seeing the tab, even though I select this one, I don't see its attributes. So I have to unlock this to actually show. So pay attention, anytime you lock any tab, you have to make sure you unlock it. So I select this and unlock it. Then now keyframe. So I'm just adding a bit of secondary animation to this one, and I'll say okay, here, go up a little bit more. So I'll set a keyframe, and I see this one bounces, and before it continues, boom boom, then it goes like that. So you can have fun with this particular technique as well. So this is how you do it without dynamics, or this is at least how I would do it without dynamics. Yeah, so the tracer object is also showing you its animation. So if I go back and hit play, see, boom 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 boom. So basically, yeah, but now let me quickly go into the scene and show you how I actually added light and quickly. So I'll go into this is the which I've named cube rotation, and now if I hit play, see it's the same scene which was fully set to dynamics. So no animation, except the only animation I did was the camera actually. So one camera, this particular camera follows the cube and keeps moving back and forth, right? And now there's a second camera, right, which is at the beginning, right? Then I morph, so I use the camera morph to morph between those two cameras. Basically, that's what I did, nothing fancy. Then you come back, and then this particular cube is different from the first cube. So if this cube is moved in place, so that like it looks, when I start again, it looks like this one has moved in for the it to continue. So basically that's the only two things that I kind of animated. So you see, it comes here and it's like it's been moved, and now, but it's two different cubes. This one moves in, then it animates. So those are the only two things I actually set keyframes for. Now let's go into the lighting. So I use redshift, and I actually didn't plan to lit this. It was just like I came about this idea and I started playing around with it, and I said, you know what, let me actually add some things to it and add light to it. So I went ahead and added like normal cube, and I put like placed it in how do you call it, clone objects, and started putting it at the background. So you can see it's what we have here is just a normal like L shape backdrop, then with cubes which I've extended it, where is it, it's normal cube, right? And I've put it into cloner, then I've in a linear, I've moved it up and everything, duplicated it. This is another normal cube. If you come in here, it's another cube in here, and so it's basic shapes, nothing fancy, right? For the floor, I have it's my 4D floor object actually, which is handling the dynamics, right? Where is it? I think, yeah, okay, this is the plane. No, I have this now 4D. Yeah, this is the floor, right? This is what's holding the dynamics, but it's hidden, right? So this one is just the one with the light and the material and everything, but the floor is the one handling the dynamics, so that every place will be dynamic. Then now let me go ahead and the light. So what I did is I added one dome light. Where is it? A dome light here, right? This is the, yeah, so I think actually two dome lights, right, to actually get my scene. So let me bring the redshift render. So redshift render view, right? And now let's, yeah, so redshift render view. I'll go ahead and turn off the lights. So I'll turn off these lights, right? So turn all of them. So this is the scene without light. This is the default redshift lights. So the first light I added was area light, a big area light which is on the side here, I'll actually lock this to show us, and I'll place it somewhere here. No, I don't like it. Yeah. So then I'll get out of my scene. So I have one area light. Where is it? Object, which is placed on the side. So it's far somewhere here. That's the area light. This is like casting the shadow, pushing everything here. That's one area light I added. Then I added a dome light to fill like the whole scene. So one dome light to, where is it? There's the dome light. Actually, this is the, I mean, I didn't plan name the lights well, so because I didn't plan to light the whole scene, but later decided to light it because of the tutorial. So I added this particular dome light and added another one, right? Then later added this particular dome light, and this one, what it does is it's just reflecting the cube. You see, so if I select the dome light and I come to the project, actually, let me see. I think it's this particular dome light rather. So yeah, this particular dome light, what it's doing is just affecting only the cube, and it's only affecting it's not even affecting the cube's diffusion, just the reflection, so that we can actually get the reflection on the cube properly. Like, because there was the material I used has some fingerprints, like imperfections and stuff, and it wasn't showing, so I actually brought in this one and limited it to just the cube, and I affected only, so you can see in the diffuse, if I come to ray diffuse, it's 0, and now so it's affecting only the glossiness and other stuff. So this particular dome light was just for the cube's reflection to show. The rest were other dome lights which I used HDRI images, which this particular I come to my content browser. I have it here. I actually brought it from the Office machine, so I'd forgotten the name, but I use one of these HDRIs, I think, reflections. I use some of these HDRIs to actually lit my scene. Then now, so the next is yeah, that's basically, so more dome light. Then this particular light, area light, was added to cast some sort of shadow because I felt it was a bit clean, so I just intentionally added it and added cube in clonal object, so you can see it here, so that it will sort of block the light. So if I enable it, you can see it casts some shadows in the scene. So that's the intention of this particular light. And what I did is I actually come to general, and you can see its intensity wasn't that high because there was a lot of light in the scene, right? And I actually came down here, see the spread. If I should increase it, you can see it's fit, like you can't feel the shadow, like it doesn't cast the shadow properly. The shadow becomes very soft, and the wider it is, like the shadow disappears because it's very soft. But if you reduce the spread, the shadow gets sharp, and now you can feel the shadow being casted. So that's how I casted these shadows in the scene. So basically that's the setup. I went ahead and let me check the render settings, added GI irradiance cache, because I mean I wasn't nothing in to make it bounce a little bit, and that's basically the setup for the lighting and rendering. Nothing fancy, it was just normal dome lights with area lights. I mean, that's all. And with the materials, I use the GSG or Greyscale Gorilla everyday materials. So I didn't create them because like I said, I didn't. It's not something I intentionally or plan to do, like to add textures and light and everything. So I use the Greyscale Gorilla everyday material or something. So where is it? Yeah. So I think this is the materials I use for the. Let me actually for the brick as well. It wasn't really planned, so I just placed it on the brick brick material. Where is it? I just placed it on the brick and I scaled it, made it like turn the projection into cubic, and I scaled it as huge as I can so that like it will look like a brick, but it's not well projected. And I didn't want to take time like create any individual like for materials for bricks so that like it will be accurate, because I just wanted something to show like what you can do. So basically that's all I did with the materials. And for the rest of it, the background, like it was just a normal redshift material which I create redshift material, new material, and like added, increase the brightness to, I think, yeah, that's all. And I added to the background, so there's nothing fancy about the materials as well. So that's how I lit the scene. All right, so in After Effects, like I said, I'm going to actually show how you do this same technique, the rolling cube, in After Effects. So please subscribe and turn off your notification button so that like you will be notified when I drop that. And it also go a long way to also support me and encourage me to do more of these videos. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.